We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the guidance to Islam and Yawm al-Jummah. In the Muslim world, we were watching the events going on in Jerusalem, where the Zionist government, they put illegally some of the metal detectors on its doors and stopped Muslims from worshipping in Masjid al-Aqsa. There was an outrage all over the world, particularly the Muslim world, and then by the Muslims in Palestine. They came out in thousands of numbers in the streets to protest this atrocity which was committed. As we talked last time, to worship the way one wants to worship is a basic human right, and nobody can stop an individual from following their religion. And Masjid al-Aqsa is one of the three holiest places of Islam, and this is probably a rare time in history that the Masjid al-Aqsa and its access was blocked by the occupying force of the Zionist entity Israel over there. So a lot of sacrifices were made by the Muslims there. Many of them joined the ranks of shuhada, and many of them they sit down in the streets for days doing zikr of Allah, ibadah of Allah, calling Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So now, with the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they were successful, and those metal detectors were removed, and they had access to Masjid al-Aqsa, and they went there and performed their salat. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. So therefore, this is a day that we express our shukr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His help and guidance to the Muslims to join together and stand up as one body for a common cause. And it is also very happy to know that many Christians, they joined in the struggle in Palestine, and they showed their solidarity with the Muslims who were standing up for the right cause. So this is one great occasion for us to be happy and to express our shukr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the success in their struggle. And we hope and pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the ultimate success, to have the free Palestine one day, where they can live as dignified human beings under their own elected leadership, and to enjoy that freedom of expression, freedom of living, business, and political action, and so on, which has been taken away from them for the last several years, at least since 1946, and then second time in 1967, when their lands were occupied illegally, and their freedom has been snatched away from them. So we hope and pray and continue to pray. This is the dua we should always make for our brothers and sisters in Palestine, that may Allah help them and grant them the freedom from all this oppression they're going through. But the second good news that we heard yesterday was from Pakistan. As we all know, this country, Pakistan, holds a special position amongst the countries of the world, because there was no such thing as Pakistan before 1947. And the movement for Pakistan had only one slogan, and that was La ilaha illallah, that we want a land where we can live as Muslim and practice Islam. It was not for a race of people, it was not for a nationality of people or a color of the people. It was built purely on the foundation of Islam. And there is no such country in the world. They say, or they claim falsely, that Israel is also an ideological state. That is not true. It is a racist country. It is based on apartheid. anybody who is in their definition Jewish, it is all the rights for them. But if in their definition somebody is not Jewish, they have no right over there. Even if they claim to be Jewish, like there are some people came from Africa and they said we are Jewish, but they don't have that right what the other so-called Jewish people have there. So this is a purely racist entity which came into existence with the collaboration of some world powers. But Pakistan is purely an ideological country. It came into being, there was no reason for it to come to existence because the people in Pakistan, they have same race like in India. They have, most of them have same color like in the country of India. What makes them different? That these are Muslims who want to live under the guidance of Islam. They want to establish Islam as their way of life, which they could not do in a combined India. So when British were leaving in 1947, they could not hold on to India as a colonial power. Then the Muslims of India under the leadership of Muhammad Ali Jinnah and Allama Iqbal, rahimahullah, they joined hands and they motivated the Muslims to come forward so they could get a separate homeland for the Muslims to practice Islam. This was the purpose of Pakistan. But the tragedy happened that after the death of its founder, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, the leaders who came up, they were there just for their own families. Nepotism was there. There was greed for money. And so they extracted the money from the sources of Pakistan's economy and they put in their own bank accounts or took outside into Switzerland, somewhere else. And this has been going on, unfortunately, since the late 40s and 50s and up till today. And the poor people of Pakistan, who are more than 75-80%, they don't have even food on their table. They have struggled very hard to bring food for their families. There's no decent health care. There's no clean water. So they have been suffering because of few elite families who illegally took over the power and enriched their families. And there were some military coups in the past, but that did not help, made the situation worse. So even though they adopted the democratic process, parliamentary democracy is what is being practiced there now, but that is just a facade. This is just something on the surface. But behind the scene, the electoral process were being stolen. They, in every electoral cycle, they were stealing their positions, one family after the other. Either it was Zardari family, or it was the Sharif family, or other families. And same thing went on the state levels, local levels. There were big landlords, and they were like the slave drivers for the poor population. So this is the first time, I believe, in the history of Pakistan that the cases of corruption were brought against the ruling family, which is the Sharif family. And instead of the military coup, it was a process of law. Proper, legal process went through the Supreme Court of Pakistan, where the ruling family was given full chance to bring their attorneys and plead their cases. And eventually yesterday, we heard the verdict came out, and they declared the Prime Minister to be guilty of dishonesty and plundering the wealth of Pakistan and enriching their family and nepotism and so on. And he was removed. So we are very thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on this just and right decision for not only Pakistan, but I believe it will have very profound effects on the whole Muslim Ummah. This shows that if you follow the just process, as Islam teaches us, that you should hold i'dilu huwa aqrabu lit-taqwa. This is what Quran says to us. And this is the slogan on the door of the Supreme Court of Pakistan. If you look at the pictures, you'll find i'dilu huwa aqrabu lit-taqwa, and there is a picture of a scale there. This is what Islam stands for. And we find in the history of Islam that regardless of who it is, whether they are the rulers or the common street man, they are all equal in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the justice system of Islam. And there are many examples we find in the life of Khulafa, the leaders of Muslim Ummah. And you remember the example of Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu, that a common man can stand up and object to him, ask him the question, where did you get this shirt that you're wearing? You couldn't have made this shirt. Where did you get the extra cloth? Just look at just this trivial thing in our eye. So what if somebody is wearing a shirt, but the person who's questioning him, he stood up, had the courage to do that. And Umar radiallahu anhu, he did not rebuke the questioner. Who are you to question a Khalifatul Muslimin? He responded to the question appropriately. And same thing we find in the life of Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu, the Khalifa of Muslims, that he had to go to court to get back his shield. His shield was stolen by someone. And he found out, but he did not snatch from him, send his own people, police to snatch. He took him to the court. And Qadi Shurah, he's a very famous Qadi or judge in the history of Islam. He let them stand equally before him. He did not say, okay, this Khalifa, you can have a very distinguished position or something. They both stood equally before the justice. And then he asked questions, and later on, he gave decision in the favor of that Jewish person who stole the sheep. But then, looking at this justice, that Jewish person said, I declare kalma shahada, because the deen of Islam, if this is the justice, then I know this is the truth. So this just two short, a very brief example. There is a long list of examples you can look in the history of Islam. But we have turned away from the teaching of Islam. We have two tiers of the justice system. For the common man, it is different. For the people, elite people, the leaders, it's different. They can just buy the justice. They can use the government forces, the police, to get away and bypass the justice system. So this is, I believe, in the recent history, the decision of the Supreme Court of Pakistan really has revived the tradition of Islamic justice system. These justices, they did not care that this is a prime minister of the country who holds the reign of powers. He could fire them, he could do anything to them. But they had no fear. And they conducted a fair trial. And as a result of that, they declared him guilty and they told him to leave the position of being a prime minister. This is really a landmark decision, as I said, not just for Pakistan, but for the Muslim Ummah. And the generations of Muslims will remember that, just like we remember the justice of Qadi Shurah, that how he did justice to Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu, the Khalifatul Muslimin. I think this decision at the Supreme Court of Pakistan will be remembered in the same line, that the Muslim judges they have to recognize their responsibility before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first. And secondly, to the people they are administering the justice. And they should have no fear of anybody and do what is right. This is what Islam teaches us. At every level, whether we are in our family circle or in the community and society, when people make us a judge, we should have no other factor to influence our procedure of justice. We should make decisions based upon the truth and fairness which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taught us. Then we are truly rewarded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this dunya and akhirah. But if we are scared of somebody, or if we have some other motive of benefit from this dunya and make the wrong judgment, then we are going to be held accountable on the day of judgment. So this is the lesson you and me as common Muslims learn from this incident, what happened in Pakistan. This, as I said, you should study it and learn the lesson from it. And this is the greatest lesson that I learned, that whenever I am in a position of judgment, and many times we are told to judge between two brothers, to judge in the family, to make a committee and resolve the dispute amongst some brothers or sisters, then we should stand tall on the principles of justice or adl, which Islam teaches us. Then the rewards are immense, even though we may be blamed and accused of whatever, false accusation that you have done favoritism, this and that. But if in our conscience we have made the right decision, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is most pleased with us. So therefore I want to remind all of us that this decision which happened in Pakistan and the Prime Minister was removed is really a landmark decision. And inshallah it will show an example to other countries. At this point in our history, where we have more than 50 so-called Islamic countries or states, unfortunately, a large majority, they are being governed by some families, by some individuals with their iron fist and iron hand. And most of the Muslim people, they are suffering under their tyranny, under their zulm. And these people are enriching their families. I don't want to take any names, but you can go from one end to the other, and you will find a pathetic situation of Muslims at this time. You go to the masses in the streets, and you find how much suffering goes on. And when you look at the government and the families who are enriching themselves, they have billions of dollars in their accounts, in the country and outside. They have palaces all over the place, and they're buying real estate in the Western countries, whether it's Europe or America or Australia or wherever. And they're flying in the best kind of jets, personal jets, and they're the yachts for billions of dollars. And recently, as you can see, how the King of Saudi Arabia gave a gift to our president here, and they say it was worth many, many $billions. So you can imagine how much his own yacht is worth. But even in this country where they have so much money, you go to the street, the people are suffering. So this is the situation. The only thing, of course, ultimately is in the hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is the one who makes the ultimate decision. But amongst them, that how they can allow this to happen. So there is a power which Allah has given to the common people. If they gather under righteous leadership and stand up for their rights, for the true adl and justice, then they can get the rights. But if they're going to just go their own ways, not ready to make any sacrifices, not express the truth, then the zalim, the oppressors will continue. But of course Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He does not let it happen. He does not let this zulm go on. And we have plenty of examples in the human history. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us examples of the nation of Ad and Thamud, the nation of Nuh alayhi salam, and the example of Fir'aun and Musa alayhi salam is repeated in the Quran so many times. And sometimes you ask yourself, why it is repeated in so many surahs about the Fir'aun and the struggle of Musa alayhi salam. And the reason is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to know that you cannot be complacent in the face of zulm and injustice and oppression. Just like Musa alayhi salam and his brother Harun alayhi salam, just two people, they stood up before the most tyrant person of their time. And they were most courageous. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us this example. That people, you stand up, the oppression can go so far. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to remove it, whether with you or without you. But if you do some struggle, then you'll be rewarded. So this is one aspect of this decision which I wanted to remind myself and everyone else, that this is the system of justice which Islam promotes. And this needs to prevail in all the Muslim countries. But this is not going to happen by itself. The Muslim masses, they have to organize and they have to struggle peacefully under the righteous leadership. They should recognize who are true leaders. They should not be deceived by the corrupt leadership. Too often we have seen in Pakistan again and again, the people, they are deceived by these people who present themselves as the well-wishers of the common people. But they have seen it again and again that they tell lies, they are dishonest, and they extract their wealth and leave them to suffer in poverty and no health care and no food and no clean water. This is what's going on not just in Pakistan. You can see same situation in Bangladesh, same situation in many of the Arab countries. Even those like Saudi Arabia, you go there in the street, you find out how people are suffering there, even though they say it's a very rich country. This is a rich country for just the Saud family and their own, close allies. So the only way for success for Muslims is to stand up and struggle. Just like our brothers and sisters in Palestine, they are a great example for us. The level of oppression which they are going through every day, we can only read and imagine, but they go through it every day. Losing their homes, losing their farms, cannot move from one street to the other without going through a long checkup. And the Gaza, you have seen the Gaza picture lately, they cannot rebuild anything. They have destroyed all their homes, schools, hospitals, gone. Rubble. And they don't have electricity, clean water, very difficult to get. But under these situations, when it is just like a big prison, they can get out, can get in, no airport, no seaport, and the world is watching it, nobody's saying anything. But these brothers and sisters, they are very strong Muslims. You listen to them, they're standing firm. So this is an example for the rest of the Muslim Ummah, that we should stand for justice, adl, and stand against the corrupt leadership and remove them through peaceful means, through legal means. And I salute our justice system in Pakistan that they were brave enough to bring this decision and make an example for the rest of the Ummah. And at the same time, we express our shukr, thankfulness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He has given us such kind of brave judges. Even though there is a lot of corruption, but there are good people like these that Pakistan exists today. Otherwise, it could not have existed. It would have gone long before now. But there are good people like Sirajul Haq, the Amir of Jamaat Islami. And even the judges in the Supreme Court said that he is the only person today that we can look at who is truly honest and God-fearing person. And there are many though, many such people who have good character and taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they can lead the ummah. So we hope and pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He reward these judges, He reward our good leadership and righteous people, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring peace and justice not only in Pakistan but throughout the Muslim ummah.
Ameen.
And help us to get rid of the corrupt people and bring the righteous leadership back in its right place to lead the ummah to success in this dunya and akhirah. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين واستغفر إنه الغفور الرحيم.